know your point of view.
So hi everyone, welcome. Today I want to talk to you about the imposter syndrome. I bring it up because it's another one of these things where mainstream psychology, it gets confusing for those of us who are dealing with people with personality disorders because it seems, so there is this thing called the imposter syndrome that plagues regular people, neurotic people mostly. It's about the opposite of what narcissism is. It basically says, if you reach a certain amount of success, people tend to or think of themselves as imposters. Like if anyone really figured out who they really are, that they're really insecure and afraid and broken and awkward and all these things that they know they are in private. If anyone ever figured that out, that they would never believe that that's who they have as their pilot of their airplane, or that's who they have as their doctor, or whatever success you've reached in your life. That if anyone knew who you really are, and it can even be as simple as if people knew who you really are, they wouldn't even want to be your friend if you have a really extremely low self-esteem. It basically, the tenet of it is that we think that we are so odd and so strange and so much weirder than everybody else. And the reason for that is that we're judging our insides. We're judging all the things that we know about ourselves privately, our foibles, our fantasies, our insecurities, our fears, all that kind of stuff. We know all that stuff about ourselves. We know the things that we do. We know our secret addictions. We know our obsessive compulsive disorders. We know all that stuff about ourselves. And we judge that against the outside of everybody else. We judge that against what we see from someone else based on their Instagram or their Facebook, or even just, there's nobody that we know as well as we know ourselves. And all of these things we don't talk about. And so, we know everything about ourselves, and we know very little really about everybody else. And we're judging ourselves against them and thinking that the people who are in charge of everything don't have all the things that we have. They don't have all the insecurities, all the fears, they're not weirdos the way that we're weirdos. Because I think a lot of neurotics, a lot of us empaths probably have this. We probably have this imposter syndrome probably a lot. Whereas narcissists truly are a lot of times imposters, and they don't have it at all. And sociopaths are imposters, and they think everybody is. So it's another tweak on regular psychology. So as unhealthy and awful as it sounds, this imposter syndrome this is something that even the healthiest among us will do. And we can work through it and get to where we can come to terms and figure out that, everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time the same way. We all basically have the same things. Everyone has their off days. Everyone has their thing. And nobody out there is just pristine and perfect and has nothing wrong with them and nothing they're afraid of and nothing that they do that they think is weird. And truly, if we got inside of anybody's head, we'd see just as many weird things about them, if not more, than we see about ourselves. So, what the heck? But where it gets even more complicated is that with the narcissists, they don't have this. They don't have this at all. And they truly are imposters. So it's really a kind of an odd manifestation. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there and get your take on it. Like, first of all, have you dealt with imposter syndrome yourself? Of course, the narcissist, an emotionally abusive person will totally feed this in you too, because they will totally make you, they just destroy your self-esteem. So that makes it even worse. And they'll steal your thunder and all that. And if you have really strong imposter syndrome, you're going to be very prone to giving away credit for things, and if you're in joint ventures the way that I was with my husband, he was all too ready to take complete credit for everything we'd done and accomplished. And I was, too easy to give it up. Getting the people pleaser thing, to try to get it from pleasing my parents and things like that, and pleasing my husband, and being the best based on their feedback, right? And so whatever he was telling me was what I was going to believe. So where I tie this into what we're all talking about here is that if you have a tendency towards the imposter syndrome, it's really a good idea to get real on this. And this is another time when my philosophy of embracing reality is going to come in really well. really handily. There's two basic things that I really hold dear to in basically everything that I talk about and everything that I've written and all that. And that is that truth and love are everything. And I break that down to something even simpler because with truth and love, we have a collective misunderstanding and a hard time coming up with the definitions that we can all agree on. And so if you go with embracing reality, that is, what do you know is true based on, not beliefs, not any feeling, but based on what you have proof and evidence is true. If you do that, so for instance, it's true if someone's a human being, then you know that they have all the same physical things that you do. They get old. They use the bathroom. They get sick. They get tired. They they have things. They have things that aren't right with, they have just as many things to worry about as you do. They get dandruff. They lose their hair. Whatever it is. Everyone's got the same stuff. So if you use embracing reality, that's going to help you with your imposter syndrome. You can say to yourself, no, nobody handed this to me. I worked hard for it. Whatever it is, you can just, you can go through the things that you say to yourself to knock yourself down and take away your accomplishments or to give them away to someone else. So you walk yourself through it and you hold yourself accountable to what you know is true, what you know is real. Okay, so that's one thing that's really going to help you with the imposter syndrome as far as yourself is concerned. And it will also help you to level out what you're dealing with if you're dealing with a narcissist who is truly the imposter, trying to tell you that they are all these great things when perhaps they're not, and potentially taking away your thunder. So that's the first one. And then the other thing is love. And in place of love, I use compassion, and because compassion is empathy with action that you can see. And in this sense, self-compassion. Self-compassion is a big, huge one. I talk about compassion as the thing that I'm really an activist for, because I think that we've come to have a world that is very much lacking in compassion. But when it comes to this channel, when it comes to the people that are having troubles with narcissism, survivors, victims of narcissistic abuse and emotional abuse, this is where I talk about self-compassion, because we have been a group of people that has not had nearly enough compassion shown our way, coming our way in our lives. And so we have to give some compassion to ourselves, because we have a hard time with it, because it feels like we can tell ourselves it's self-pity. And it's not self-pity. Self-compassion is not self-pity. It's much closer to self-love, which we have a hard time. We think that's egotism or narcissism, and it's not that either. Self-compassion is a way of of being kind to yourself, of talking to your inner child, and of standing up for yourself, of giving yourself that protective adult, that protective person that wasn't there when you needed them. You need to be that person for yourself now, that reasonable voice who's taking care of you and who is saying, good job, good for you. You're awesome. You worked hard for this, and you're smart, and I'm so proud of you, and you deserve this, and you deserve everything that comes your way. That's the kind of stuff you need to say to yourself, because you didn't get enough of it. You didn't see enough of it in your life, and it's time to heal that. And so if you suffer from the imposter syndrome, and you don't have to be a survivor of narcissistic abuse to be a person who suffers from imposter syndrome. This is something that, like I said, mainstream population suffers from this. But if you have grown up with narcissistic abuse, I think you probably stand a greater chance of having it. And not only that, it'll be harder to get out of it because you have reinforcements for it all around you. You have people that are taking your accomplishments away, claiming them for themselves, and all this stuff. And so it is to your benefit to really try, and as you're healing, pay attention to the imposter syndrome. Able to have accomplishments. You're not broken. You're not damaged. You're not any of the things that your abusers told you were, which was who knows what. I mean, there's so many crazy things that I've heard that people have told their children, their spouses, their friends. I mean, it's just unreal and just amazingly cruel. we can be. And so if you've had a lot of that in your life, it's going to be real hard for you to really believe that you can accomplish anything. And when you do, you'll think, oh, who can I, God, if they figure me out. And then that just breeds all kinds of insecurity. You think, oh God, if they figure me out, I'm going to lose everything. And if you believe in the law of attraction, then that'll be exactly what ends up happening. So you really have to kind of get a handle on this. You have every right and every reason to be perfectly successful and have every one of your dreams come true. And you need to embrace reality, and you need to have self-compassion, and that will help you with getting over your narcissistic abuse, and it will definitely help you if you have the imposter syndrome. All right, you guys, I will talk with you later. Thanks a lot for stopping by.